Good evening. Did that work? Who knows? Who cares? Hello, everybody. If there's anybody here. If not, hello, anybody. And anybody anyway. I know how English works. How are peoples today? Hey, Aaron, you alright? How you doing, bud? Hey, Jenny. Oh, so, Aaron, I'm assuming you're somewhere Midlands-ish. How warm is it down there right now? Because it's horrendous here. I just need to say, it is horribly, horribly, horribly warm, and I don't like it. Hey, Dan, how you doing, buddy? Over the melting, how is everybody? Are they all okay? I finally remembered that I actually have a fan. It's only taken me 3 weeks to remember this, but there we go. So this is going to be a relatively quick video. Good. Bit warm. Yeah, just a little bit. It's going to be a relatively quick video, actually. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the books that I've read this month. We've done 15 in total this month. So, a productive Don't Die July. Unfortunately, the founder, the godfather of the event, Noah, cannot be with us as he's working. He's actually earning something. Well, I hope he's earning it and not just getting paid for being in work. Bless. But we are going to do, Noah and I are going to do a proper live talking about Don't Die July in general. What's worked, what hasn't, what we're going to do next year. And yeah, we will go from that. But what I'd like to know first is, what is everybody reading? I am about to start on The Fall Is All There Is by C.M. Kaplan. Dan, you're no frog, but I'm sure if a beautiful prince or princess kissed you, you will turn into something radiant. 27. Oh, I think that's warmer than here, actually. That's horrendous. Oh, I've not looked. I'm going to be in work for the next few weeks, so it's fine. Work's not going to kill me, probably. Right, let's see if this works, because it might do, and it might not. Is it that button or that one? Let's try that one. There we go. Maybe even the chat thing will start working in a minute. We'll see. Turn that down a bit. Okay, so reading stats, because people love numbers. 15 books. So let me just see if that's showing properly on there. So yeah, 15 books. 33 hours of audiobooks, 2,417 pages. We did a little bit of reading this month. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. And in typical me fashion, most of it was dark. Because apparently I don't do light summer reads. So there we go. Bit of mystery, bit of tension, bit of emotion. I've actually got a funny in there. I'm not quite sure which one that would be. Oh, okay. No, that makes sense. Most of them medium paced. Most of them, well, slightly over half between 300 and 499 pages, with about 45% under 300 pages. So, yeah, a good mix. All non-fiction. No, not all non-fiction. That's a lie. All fiction. And we have my favourite graphs. We've done a horror month. Now, they were all meant to be horror reads, and one of them is not classed as a horror read over here on Storygraph, which is probably the first one I'm going to cover, actually. But other than that, horror heavy this month, as expected, with a few LGBTQ+, a couple of YAs and thrillers, a couple of short stories as well, which is a bit unlike me, but there we go. 7 digital, 4 audio, and 4 print, which is odd because I don't normally have a higher amount of digital. And we have a mix of ratings. It's been a very middly month, let's say. Which isn't bad, 3.75 isn't a bad book. But it took a bit of time to get anything into the fours. I think we went most of the month with just one book in here. So, and that's my reading log, which is not particularly interesting. So there we go. Zoop. So what did I read? What did I actually start the month with? Not what I thought I did, or have I not brought it up on here? Oh, cool. So speaking of Marvel, I went to see Deadpool yesterday. I actually went to the cinema. That's in the wrong one. Which is not something that I do very often. But I actually went to the pictures on my own for the first time in ages. And it wasn't a terrible movie. We'll see how the Borderlands one holds up next week. I have more concerns about that one being good, but it was good. The cinema was empty. It was brilliant until I walked out of the building because it was so dark inside. It blinded me. So there we go. Right. So books. So I started off the month with St. Juniper's Folly. So this is, which I do have the physical version. I don't even know if that's on camera because I've got the wrong thing up. There we are. Yeah. So this is a YA. Technically, I suppose it's a horror. I think it's closer to a paranormal mystery. I liked this quite a bit. I have not read The Haunting of Bly Manor, so I don't know how it compares to that. It does not remind me of Cemetery Boys, which I absolutely love. It's a side point. I like this due to the basic conceit, because this is a haunted house story. With a bit of a twist. It follows 3 main protagonists. I can't remember any of their names. I'm feeling one of them's called Jamie. Are they called Jamie? Yeah. So Jamie ends up stuck in this house which has a reputation for being haunted, and they can't get out, and then a couple of local teenagers like him come along and then try and figure out what's holding him there. And what I like about this is a twist on the idea of the reason why you can't get out of the haunted house. Because the house actually links quite well to one of the characters' family history, and also some of Jamie's internal problems. You have a bit of a budding romance between Jamie and the nerdy library kid called Theo. I've definitely made notes for this, guys. Which builds quite gradually and quite naturally. Why is the helicopters going over my house? Go away. That's just thrown me. I don't do notes. Notes are for other people. Unless it's work. I'll send you a picture of the notes I made in work tomorrow when I go back in. You'll look at them and wonder what the hell I've done. But there's a bit of a ticking clock with this one because the house is going to get demolished for plot reasons. It's set in like very small town, white America, quite evangelical in many regards. So you have a little bit of casual racism going on with a couple of the characters being from non-white backgrounds. There's a little bit of history behind Jamie as well. He's an orphan child, so he's a bit of an outcast, and stuff happens with him as well. There's magic going on. You've got a witchcraft shop, and it's a very comfy, cozy read. It's a YA, as already mentioned. I think it's a decent YA for the lower end of that spectrum. So I'm looking 13, 14-ish. There's nothing too far out of the ordinary in here. There's a little bit of language, nothing that I wouldn't expect. In fact, to be fair, I'd expect far worse from teenagers around here. It's got an interesting way that it wraps up. I'd actually be curious to see what a follow-up to this would be. I think as well that this is a debut novel. It's also worth noting that this is one of my books from a publisher called Peachtree in America, or Peachtree Teen specifically. So it's a bit of a pain sometimes getting them over here directly from the publisher, but they absolutely knock it out of the park with covers. Like, without fail, everyone that I've bought has been gorgeous. And there is another one which we'll get to right at the end, as well, which I was a bit nervous of touching. But every single one has had a gorgeous cover. They've all been pretty good. Even like the weakest ones have sat at a 3.5, with the top ones pushing towards a 5-star for me. I think if you want a relatively cozy, quite flighty paranormal mystery, I don't think this is a bad starting point in general. It is YA though, so bear that in mind. It's the younger end of YA. So, right, let's go this way. Okay. We then moved on to Lost Boy by Christina Henry. Now, Amazon, that wonderful, wonderful company, when they delivered this to me, they'd actually stuck the box to the book. So, at the moment, it's covered in pink stuff on the back, so it doesn't stick to all the other books on the shelf. Because it's just covered in glue. Wasn't my fault. I know I'll get blamed for it. It wasn't worth the effort to send it back at the end of the day. I've tried to get it off using the old hairdryer method. It has not worked. So, a bit like St. Juniper's Folly, this one is less horror than its other genre. This is more fancy. It's very much inspired by Peter Pan, as you would expect. It's actually, however, the story of Captain Hook, or a version of his origin story, and how he ended up the pirate that we know. And what I like is this kind of pulls from the early works before Peter Pan was published, where Hook wasn't even in those original versions. He was very much introduced later on to be a villain, and the closest character to a villain in there was Peter. And I like the cover of this. It gives a sort of a fae feel to the character, which I think fits really nicely. It does read quite similar to an elf from like I was going to say the Feywild. That's a very D&D term, but it gives that sort of ephemeral feeling of the character. Very capricious, doesn't really care about any of the people around him, and Hook begins to sort of become an older brother figure to the various other lost boys. Things go horribly wrong when Peter fetches a kid back without Jamie's, against Jamie's suggestion, who seemed a bit too young and a bit too much of a fodder. And they go and attack the pirate camp, and they go one step too far, and things begin to escalate as you have Jamie and Peter almost coming to blows at times. And you have a sense of Jamie being betrayed by Peter themselves. You also have Peter, who has a very real connection to Hook, and there's very much a curse going on here of, you are going to stay here and play with me forever, be it as my friend or my enemy. I'd say there was a striped cover stuck to the front cover. I finally got it off, but the top cover was a bit damaged. Yeah, fortunately, it's not actually damaged it. I've got quite lucky with this one. It just won't stop being sticky. I tried a little bit of time. I will get it off eventually. I'll say that I've now stuck things to it, so that's probably going to make it worse, isn't it? Yeah, it's still sticky as balls. Yeah, a bit frustrating. I've noticed recently Amazon's packaging of books has been disappointing, shall we say. But then again, it's not just them that does it sometimes. I've had Waterstones deliver stuff and it's been crap as well before now. But yeah, I really like this. It's quite it's not particularly fast moving, it's not particularly action drenched as well, but it's a really interesting interpretation of Hook as a character and where he came from. His relationship with his mother is explored, and how that memory's been suppressed. How he was the first of the Lost Boys, hence the special relationship with Peter. And just little bits and pieces of Neverland itself that are close enough to what we know, but slightly different. Also worth noting is that you don't know about Tinkerbell in this, or the fairies at least, or pixies, whatever you choose to class them as. Until quite late on. I don't think you actually see it in this. The idea of Peter being able to fly is very much not something that comes up until really late on. It's very hidden. You also have like the Hangman's Tree from Peter Pan itself, and in this that doesn't exist, but there is a tree that all the Lost Boys sleep in. And then you have another one where that acted as a portal to the normal world, which is how they brought the boys through. And it's suggested, although not stated, that when Peter realised that Jamie was going to take the boys back home to get them away from him, he destroyed the portal himself to keep them there. And that then became the Hangman's Tree. So I'm really interested to read more. What have I got by them? I went out on a bit of a spending spree last month. So I already had Girl in Red by her. And then I picked up The House That Horror Built and Horseman as well. Which Horseman I'm very excited for because it's a Sleepy Hollow inspired story. And I love Sleepy Hollow. Love it, love it, love it, love it. It is annoying. I mean, at least it didn't damage it to the point where I couldn't read it. So there's a bonus. That got 3.75. It's one that does have a first chapter read on the channel as well. Chapters are very long as well, on a side point, which I appreciate. It's nice to have proper sized chapters. Not chapters that are 75 pages long, Premier Mohammed, and not chapters that are 3 sentences, which I have had in a book recently, and it really boiled my... Yeah, didn't like that. Next, book of the month, unsurprisingly. Bury Your Gaze by Chuck Tingle. Now, Noah was saying that he went in Waterstones yesterday, and there was a massive pile of these on the offer table, and all the staff were talking about how amazing this is. This is a really good entry-level horror story. If you don't know who Chuck Tingle is, this is his second full-length horror novel, his third horror novel in total. Last year he did Camp Damascus, which I absolutely loved. This is better than that. And he also wrote one called Stray, which, if you've read The Blood Beast Mutations by Carl John Lee, it's a similar sort of vibe to that, which has some really creepy moments. But he's mainly known for his, what I would like to call, wholesome, absurdist erotica and inclusivity as well. As an author, he attends all his author events in a white suit with a bag on his head, wearing sunshades, and he very positive, very love is real, love conquers all, and that's something that comes through in this book as well. And in fact, in all his works, it's a case of you are valid, love is real, find love, love will find you, sort of thing. I'm a bit more cynical than that, but this is very, very timely because this is so the title itself is a reference to the idea in TV and film of introducing a character, normally from a minority of some type, just to kill them off. But then you can go, we did the diversity thing, and especially with gay characters or non-straight characters at any rate, the fact that they used to never get happy endings. Either they'd sacrifice themselves as this moment to save everybody else, or they die early, or something would go wrong. So that's what the actual title's referencing. And you're following a script writer who has just been Misha, a script writer called Misha, who has been nominated for an Oscar for or an Academy Award for a animated short film, if I remember correctly. And he's working for one of the big studios. Now, it doesn't explicitly say it, but it's Warner Brothers Studios, which is a studio that has a long history of abusive practices. And we shall leave it at that. I mean, most corporations have a long history of abusive practices, but it is very clearly, this is aimed at Warner Brothers specifically. But it goes beyond the level of the corporate sort of... not misfortune. I've forgotten the word. Corporate shenanigans. Sorry, we'll go for that. Yeah, Hollywood in general. Well, this also takes a look at some things that Hollywood's doing now. So we've got the rise of CGI, we have the rise of AI as well in creative spaces in particular, which has really exploded in the last 9 months. Um, and there are certain studios now or different companies that are doing AI likenesses of actors and actresses who have passed away. So you can do Q&As with them, and they are artificially voiced, they're CGI generated, and the AI generates the answers based on algorithms around the personality of their character, which is a bit icky. And this looks at that. They've got someone up for an Oscar who died years ago, and it's a full AI CGI performance. So it's looking at that, the dangers of that in the creative process, Hollywood meddling in storytelling. And what starts to happen is basically he's called in and told, well, we know you've got this great idea for the end of your series, but you should just kill the gay people. That's what the algorithm says it wants. It wants them to go out in a blaze of glory or be straight, which the scriptwriter refuses, and then strange things start to happen. He starts to feel like he's being stalked, initially by some sort of fan dressed up in cosplay of various characters that he's created at different points within their career. And then it becomes clear that there's something more going on here. On top of this, you have some personal relationship issues. This is a character who is out to their friends in Hollywood, and it is suspected because of the coding of the characters that they write by the general public that they're gay. But back home in, I want to say Louisiana, it might not be. I don't think it is actually. Can't remember where it is. Some small town place in America. He isn't out because of the bullying he received as a kid, so he's fighting with that as well. And you have this gradual unraveling of, first of all, his own psyche, because, you know, at one point he's being stalked by a black cute sheep that's face splits open into a tentacle, and it's like, okay, what in the Eldritch horror is going on here? But also is like various different characters are appearing and following him, and it's as he begins to realise that these are following the same rules as the characters that he's written, he's trying to write his way, so to speak, through the issues. And you get to the reveal later on, and, you know, this is a critique of corporatism. Like, it really is. I love the fact that this is going to be a best-selling novel, just like his last one was. And he's already been picked up for another 2 books, I believe. Yeah, there's some AI itself. So AI probably does have its place, and it's not as advanced as it is so far. I don't think it's true AI yet. I think it's virtual intelligence really at the moment. It's still working on a certain restrictions in its algorithm. And I have seen it. OpenAI might be going very badly bust soon, so it might be something that pops very quickly, a bit like NFTs did. But you've seen a lot more AI generated content, be it art or books, so on and so forth. And the problem with it is that the algorithm's got to learn stuff, right? And the problem is it learns stuff by copying it. And some of that stuff is copyright protected. So basically what it's doing is plagiarism, which is illegal, but it's very, very hard to prove. But even one of the big ones, and I can't think who it was, Midjourney, has actually said, yeah, some of our AI learning has been through copyrighted works. And it's an even bigger issue going into Hollywood, because I believe about now there's a load of SAG-AFTRA strikes, which is the Actors and Voice Actors Union, around stuff to do with AI, because one of the big things that this talks about is your right to your own likeness, and who owns that? Do you own it, or does the studio own it? And if the studio owns it, can they use it forever in perpetuity and give you no money? Right? And that's an argument that is going on at the moment. And of all the companies that I think we're going to see a lot more of this with, Disney, I think, is going to be the one to keep an eye on for that one. As is always the way. But possibly my book of the year so far, this one. I really enjoyed this. It's, what, on 300 pages? I think it's a little bit more, actually. I think I've got the wrong version on the screen. 345 pages because I've got the wrong version on the screen. A lot of fun, quick read. There's some good humour in here as well. There's a point which I've told Noah about this, and he just burst out laughing. Where they're talking about, he's talking to like one of the executives, and one of the executives is Scott being quite demeaning, going, "Yeah, we'd give you a disaster movie, but you'd have to find some way to make it gay because obviously writing gay films." And he just turned around with the title straight away, and said, "Yeah, Girthquake." And it's a bit like that in places, but you've got other warmer things. You do have a solid supporting cast as well. So there we go. Book of the year so far. Definitely book of the month, 4.75. Then we come on to Psychic Teenage Bloodbath 2. Oh. Okay. I gave this 2.5 stars, and I think I was being generous. This is splatterpunk and extreme horror. Not my wheelhouse for horror. I've said this before. I do occasionally struggle with how visceral it is. But I liked book 1 well enough. It went absolutely batshit mental in the last third. Like, properly... This didn't really have the same ramp up. It started off really strongly, and then it fell off the cliff. Most of it is set in almost like an unconscious dream realm of the main character, who's called Charlie. Yeah, they're getting AI to write books. I have read one. Wasn't good. But it will get better the more... It's like anything, the more data it can pull from, the better it will get. Think of how Amazon, the longer you use Amazon, the better it gets at telling you what you want to buy. Like all my books. Anyway. Yeah, so the writing of this is fine. It's really good, really descriptive, visceral, splatterpunk. Hey, Marissa, how are you? I'm really glad you're here, actually, because I'm going to be talking about some covers very shortly. And you're very talented, and you've just done a video about book covers specifically, which I haven't watched yet because I've not had a chance to. But if you haven't checked out Marissa's channel, she's amazing. She's also caused me to buy books, but she's amazing. Yeah, Amazon's pretty good. If anyone could write a book on AI well, it would be based on an Amazon algorithm, and I hate it. Never be based on YouTube's algorithm. So yeah, Psychic Teenage Bloodbath 2. I liked book 1. Didn't love it, but I liked it. I appreciated it for what it was. It's true though. This one, which does have a pretty cover. Actually, is the cover actually showing on the screen? Yeah, it has a interesting cover. It's all set within almost like a dream world, but it feels like a series of set pieces that are just put there to shock and awe you as a reader, which is fine. It's splatterpunk horror. Hey, Witchy, how are you? I'm glad you're here as well, because you mentioned about the Spirit Bears Its Teeth earlier. I've not got to it yet. It's going to be the last one on my list. How are you? How are you? What are you both reading at the moment? He says, trying to remember what he saw on Goodreads earlier. Yeah, so this was... The gore was written well, but it felt... There wasn't enough plot to hold it together. And... Hey, okay. How are you doing? What are you reading? What have you been up to? What's the weather like? It's horrible here in the UK. We have sunshine. We hate it. We don't know how to deal with it. We're just talking the multitude of books that I've read for my horror month. Put with 3 in? We 3 in? I don't know. I can't remember. But what you reading? Yeah, so this is an unnecessary sequel. Which is a shame. If it had more of a through line, then I would have probably liked it more, but it just felt like set piece after set piece after set piece. Some of the ideas are really, really cool, but it just didn't work. It's probably put me off Splatterpunk more than that disaster that Noah read recently. Was it Splattersaurus that he read recently? Looking forward to him reading the second one of that. Um, Dance of Thieves, yes. I think, Marissa, we spoke about that one, didn't we? I think. I've just realised I've got fire everywhere. Yeah, so that was a shame. Oh, very nice. You know what? We pay so little attention to sort of American history here in the UK because we've got so much of it that I was speaking. No, I wasn't speaking to someone. Someone was talking about this the other day, and they were looking at the way that history is taught in the US and Canada compared to the UK, and nothing. I never did anything on American history. I should probably actually sort that out. Yeah, I thought you did. How is the biography? How are you finding it? Also, diamond painting sounds amazing. Yeah, I was trying to get my head around the American education system and it failed. I don't understand how you teach things or don't teach things, and that's coming from someone from the UK where we have the most broken education system in the world. But yeah, this is one for someone who loves splatterpunk, but that's it. Good writing, but it just doesn't work. It's just too much. Oh, I'm glad it's good so far. Right, Goosebumps. I never, as a kid, here we go. This is going to upset some people. This is one of those Neil moments, Ven moments even. We'll ignore that. We'll edit that later. I never read Goosebumps as a teenager. When I was a wee baby, yeah, I've seen little bits, and with that project 24, 25, whatever it's called, things are not looking great over there right now. Yeah. So okay, I never read Goosebumps at school. Let's start with that. Never read Goosebumps at school. I have read something by Stein from somewhere else, but when I was at school, you had point horror books instead, which were a very similar sort of thing. Um, they weren't as connected. They tended to be more standalones because I know some of the Goosebumps do link up. And this, I think, may have been my first withdrawal from the library app, because I finally found a library app that works. Thank you, Cottage Goth Library. Which, just on a side point, Ellen is streaming Baldur's Gate 3 at the moment on Twitch as well, which I'll be watching after this. You know what? Okay, right, there we go. I've not watched the TV series. I probably have watched the TV series, just don't remember it. I've not watched the films, which is no great surprise to anyone. I don't watch things, other than I'm going to fix that. This was fine. I think this is a case of I've aged out of Goosebumps. I think that's simply what it is. I think I would be quite happy for my youngest to read this, who's 10, 11. I do know how old he is. He's 10. The audio was not great, to be honest. Can't remember who read it, and I bet... No, it doesn't say. Yeah, the audio was a bit off, which didn't help my enjoyment of it. I like the idea of it. It was fine. It didn't make me want to read any more of them, but again, it's not aimed at me. So I did like the fact that it had a happy ending, which I think is kind of important for the younger kids' horror. It is a good entry level horror for younguns. There we go. Yeah, that's what I mean. It really does strike me as this is what you read when you first go up to high school here in the UK. So 10 to 13 maybe, and I think 13 you're probably aging out of it at that point anyway. I think the point horror tended to be a little bit darker, and you had point thriller or point crime as well, which I actually preferred. Which is weird because I don't read crime stuff anymore. Not yet, anyway. But yeah, it was fine. I think it was like it's 160 pages. It was like an hour and a half. It got me through work. Ugh, this monstrosity. Okay, this was a buddy read with Noah. We did a full hour-long dissection of this horrible, horrible thing. It gets a 3.5 stars because of the narrator. Simple as. This was the whistling levels of dull to me. It bored the ever-living Christ out of me. It really did. And there's not much in there to begin with. The twist is well done in Dead House, to be fair. I do like the premise itself. I'd love to see a more adult version of it, if that makes sense. Maybe there is a more adult version of it, I just haven't found it. There probably will be. But yeah, Dead Silence. So this is a sci-fi horror, and the way this was explained to me by Bookworm was it was giving him alien vibes, and I didn't get that. I got this is Titanic in space, but without people. It felt like this could have been 2 novellas and been then tightened up, because what you have is this situation where you're doing a flashback scene. No, you're doing a current moment scene, then 3 flashbacks. It sounds awesome. It's not. This is Titanic in space is the wrong way of wording it, actually. How did I describe it? I can't remember. I said something before the stream and broke Noah and then broke him when we started it. So, can't remember how I described it. It's this giant luxury cruise liner that went missing. Assumed destroyed. Now, obviously, something has gone wrong. And this crew of salvagers on their way back to, I think it was Medway Station, or meeting the Medway ship to pick them up, picked up a really old-fashioned distress call, and they found the Aurora, which is the name of the ship. And the way it's described is literally the Titanic in space. It's got like the smoke. It's not a ghost ship. They have done one about a ghost ship though. Well, ghost station. No, not even that. No, that would be good. So you have this little crew, and the crew gives you that alien vibes. You know, this working together in outer space for a long time. They get on each other's nerves, and some of them don't like each other, and so on and so forth. And this one's got trauma, and this is the nice guy, and they're obviously going to be a thing. And you have the asshole character. So it's very typical of like these small crew, and they go over onto this big ship with the idea of salvagers' rights. But nobody's alive, everybody's dead, something weird has happened. And the first half of this book, literally nothing happens. Like, they're just wandering around the ship, and it doesn't build any sense of claustrophobia or tension. Everything's working too well. It does a good job of foreshadowing the twist. Well, not the twist, the cause of everything. But it does it in quite a heavy-handed way, which kind of takes away some of the suspense. But it's the issue with this book is the structure. Because the first half of the book is a chapter set in basically a psych ward interrogation, and then 3 chapters of on the ship looking back, and then swings round about. It takes away the sense of danger because you know the character makes it out. Not everybody does, but it takes away that level of thing. And what they should have done is split this into 2 novellas, tightened up the front half a little bit, and it would have worked better. In my opinion, anyway. Now, this was narrated by Lauren Ezzo, who I think this is the 3rd book that I have. I'm sure it's the 3rd book that I've thingied with her. Listened to her. One was by Josh Malerman, a short story last year. And one was a fantasy book, and I can't for the life of me remember what the book was. You have to bear with me a minute because will you let me do it this way? Are you going to let me? No, you are not. Okay, fine. We'll do it the old-fashioned way. Not Shadow and Bone. Smoke and Summons. So she was one of the narrators in Smoke and Summons, which I enjoyed quite a bit. I listened to that a couple of months ago, and I think It Waits in the Woods by Josh Malerman, which was a short story. And she doesn't have a huge amount of range, bizarre though it sounds. She can do a really good sort of, I call it an undead husk voice, where she can sort of speak on the in breath rather than the out breath to add a real level of creep. But what she does is the quiet narration really, really well, and it drives home that sort of quiet, inward-looking terror or fear or frailty in a lot of ways that helps to increase the atmosphere. Before I switched to the audiobook, this was going to be a 2-star. Second half got better and made me like it more, but it was a bit predictable. But the narration really sold it for me. Now, Noah liked this a lot more than I did, and then went on to read Ghost Station, that came out earlier this year, which he had great fun trying to get hold of as a pre-order. So, yeah, he liked that quite a bit. Realistically, it's probably a 3-star. It's fine. Perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with it. It just lacks... It needed more stuff to go wrong. Bizarre though it sounds. You've just got wandering around this ship where everybody's died. And everything's just working. Give us some malfunctions. Give us something. Just to ramp the tension up. Not just the, oh, I have a headache. Which is all that it did. Got very angry reading that book. Oh, there we go. I did put that on twice. So, next up was The Creeper by A.M. Shine, and this was decent. So, looking at the art on the cover, I thought that this would be related to The Watchers. Because, and I'll quickly find it. That's not how you spell the. English native. There we go. Yeah. There's a lot of overlap in the way those two covers look, and I assumed they'd be related. They are not. Now, I think Watchers is slightly better. And I believe there's a film just come out, which I need to check out, actually. But this is a Irish folk horror, where there's an abandoned village that's sort of locked off from time, and this mysterious benefactor hires 2 very disposable people to go out to this village and find some answers, specifically interested in the legend of the Creeper, who is some sort of folklore-ish monster. So they go to this village, they can speak reasonable English, they're told to only stay a night. They speak to some of the villagers, and it's clear that this is quite an inbred place in many regards. You have a lot of the physical deformities because this is a very insulated community. You didn't enjoy the movie? I've not seen the movie yet. I need to watch it, actually. The book took a bit of time, and the book started off feeling like it was a bit overwritten. And I don't know if it's as I got further into it, it just became less laborious to me, or if it was a case of it felt like the actual writing simplified the further into the book it got. I like the concept. There is a follow-up book coming out in October, which I'm going to be picking up. I think it's October. By the end of the year, anyway. There's definitely another book coming out, so I'm definitely going to be picking it up to check it out. But they find some interesting things that don't quite add up. They go home, and one of the very last things is a kid says a rhyme to them about the Creeper. And you see him, I can't remember the exact wording, but you'll see him once at a distance, once up close. Third time you see him, you're dead. Basically, is how it works out. And one of the 2 people who goes is an archaeologist who gets spooked by this. The other one is somebody who is very much a historian of folklore, stuff like that, and just dismisses it all as a story, just an oral tradition being sold down. And then they see it, and again he dismisses it as just a joke, or they've followed them, and it's like, well, they don't have cars. Like, how have they done this? And it's a very, very slow build-up, as when they see it the second time, it's closer. And you begin to realise there's something else going on, and trying to get away from this, you have them run back to the village where it all started. Now, I don't like the twist, particularly. I like the ending for the... The problem with it is that The Watchers is very much based in Fey folklore. The way it's set up, creatures that are in it. This gives that impression. And I'm not going to say more than that. It's worth a listen. The narration was pretty good. Again, it's based on Irish folklore. It's got an Irish narrator who I cannot see their name on here either, which is a bit annoying, but never mind. It's pretty decent. You could probably get it through your library, to be fair. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I will be picking up The Watchers when it comes out. Yeah, I liked this. Again, I think the narration sold it a little bit more. That's the only thing. And the twist felt a little bit too neat and tidy for me as well at the end. And lacked a little bit of oomph for me personally. But that was it. It just didn't quite stick the landing for me. We're going to come back to Leech. I have things to say about Leech. Instead, we're going to talk about Undead Folk by Catherine Silver. This came out earlier this year. I've seen a number of people having picked this up and read it and spoken very highly of it. I've seen a number of interviews with the author as well. 59 pages. Read it in one sitting. I don't quite know how to describe this. It's kind of a post-apocalypse dystopian America. But you have some form of magic going on under the hood here, and it's not exactly clear how that works. And you have the main character who keeps fetching back these familiars, for want of a better term, finding the dead bodies and infusing a spirit into them. And it's not completely clear what that reason is. And these characters making their way back to what was basically a old person's home, where it turns out one of their relatives were kept before everything went to hell, and bad things happened there. So it's kind of a vengeance story, but it's not that dark. It's a decent read. I would like it to have been longer, actually. You don't really know what's happened with the world. You know, they're travelling along this old railway line. You get points about where certain different people have sort of retreated from the world to stay safe. There's a few gruesome moments in here as well. It's very, very atmospheric. I like the use of magic, even though it's not explained. Although you do get to see how it's working, and it's not clear why it works the way it is. This is obviously something the characters have been doing for a while, and there is a reason for it. And it's more a case of this is someone's personal journey, basically to deal with their own grief at the loss of their family more than anything else. And that's what this book is more than anything else. It doesn't have a happy ending. It doesn't have a sad ending, but it has quite an open-ended, quite a neutral finish to it. It's not as creepy as the cover on, though. That's the thing. I expected a really creepy horror, and this was actually in many ways surprisingly wholesome. The interaction between the fox and the main character, I can't remember the main character's name, because I don't make notes, was the highlight. There was a good bit of banter going on there. As the fox is like, well, I'm going to call you, what's your name? And just doesn't get an answer. It's like, I'm going to call you this, or this, or this. And it's just this almost childlike, like, are you called Tinkerbell? Are you called Thumbelina? Just throwing names. It's like, I think you look like this, so that's your name now because you won't tell me. And it could get annoying until you have the different points where they're having to protect each other. I think it's dirt cheap on Amazon. I think I only paid like £1.50 for it. But pretty decent. I am glad I saw it and picked it up. Now, my first Stephen King. put that back there. That can go away as well. My first Stephen King, I listened to Mile 81. And the bonus story, The Dune. I can't remember anything about The Dune. Other than it was some sand dune on an island and it was an ex-army person. That's it. Don't remember anything. Yeah, my first Stephen King. I do have... Now, okay, I have bought a few Stephen King. It's behind me, like there. I've got Pet Sematary, which I'm actually more interested to read. I've got Fairy Tale, because it was 99p on Kindle. And I got one that I'd never heard of called The Eyes of the Dragon, which someone recommended in a live chat not that long ago. This was okay. Probably not a good place for me to start my King journey, if I'm honest. It was short and at the library. Very simply, I had time for a short audiobook, and this fitted. There wasn't a great deal of choice in the horror section, to be fair. It reminds me a little bit of Caroline. I don't know if it's linked to it. You have this abandoned gas station at Mile 81. Hello. Oh, you're not streaming. I was going to come and watch you kill things on Baldur's Gate. I was talking about you actually before. How are you doing, Ellen? You okay? We're talking about my first Stephen King. Yeah, so the idea is that this sort of kid goes... There's like this abandoned gas station, which there seems to be more of a thing in... Abandoned gas stations in the middle of nowhere seems to be an American thing. We just leave them in towns. No. Today is my wrap-up. And then the rest of the month is sprints. Because work is trying to kill me. So I can't do that longer video today. We'll see how next week goes, because heavens above, it's going to be a rough month. So this kid goes to this sort of gas station, drinks some vodka, passes out. I'm very confused what you're doing, Aaron. I'm just saying. Do you fall on your keyboard? What are you doing, Ellen, anyway? What are you reading at the moment? Also, when is it you go to Glasgow? Not far off now, is it? So yeah, it's an abandoned gas station, and while this kid is drunk and asleep, this sort of station wagon pulls in. Can't tell what manufacturer it is. It's just this beaten up, mud covered station wagon. And then some people pull in. Good Samaritan scene, it's broken down, and it eats them, basically. And their cars then left abandoned at this station. Then the next person pulls in and it eats them too. But the kids survive, and you have this situation where basically this is all right. So, I wondered what you were doing. So you have this situation where you basically have this broken down car that's trying to lure people in so it can eat them. So the door will open a little bit, and when they lean in, it's like adhesive and it sticks. And eventually they realise, the kid sort of wants to warn this police person what it is. It gets shot and it flies into space. It's fine. I mean, it's an hour and 45 minutes, but that's for 2 stories. I think, yeah, it's probably a bad place to start. There was a couple of little points where I thought, oh, I can really get this. But then there was other points where in the writing it went too much into detail on something that added nothing. So, talk about a character's personal experiences, and it went into such detail about what Facebook page it was, and what year, month, and day, and exactly who told them about it, that had no relevance to the story. Just fell off. I hope that doesn't bode well for other King books. So, I don't know which one. I don't know when I'm going to get to King. It's going to be a while. Yeah, the thing is, right, I like I like Wheel of Time. No, scratch that. I love Wheel of Time. It's possibly my favourite series outside of Discworld. And Robert Jordan was stupidly detailed, but it was all world building. It all fed into everything, and a lot of these tiny, minute details would pay off 9 books later, and you'd go, and it'd suddenly click. It's like, why do I? And it'd come to you like this tiny, tiny thing made a difference. Um, yeah, similar sort of thing. Hey, tech issues. It's great. How are you doing, Ellen? How long is it till you go to? Is it Worldcon? Hugo Awards, with whatever it's called. I bet you're excited. Some of his books, the main character cheats on his wife, and it doesn't serve the plot at all. I don't get why he does it. I'm just curious. I don't know how he writes so much. That's a bit like Brandon Sanderson, who just is just a machine for writing. Um, yeah, I don't know when I'm going to read anymore. I'm probably going to read The Eyes of the Dragon next because that's more fantasy. So, but it was fine. It had its moments. It had some disappointments. It was an hour and a half. I didn't feel like I wasted my time. Oh no. Did it go horribly wrong with the tech or in the game? Just out of curiosity, did you find the giant spiders? Did you find the giant face spiders? Because that will make things go terribly wrong. As it did for me the first 11 times they killed me. Ah, fair enough. Oh, I was going to come and watch you afterwards as well. I've not had you lugging computers around again, have they? I hope not. I'll tell them off. I will. Right, okay. Um, so then I moved on to a Kingfisher, The House with Good Bones, and this again was fine. My least favourite Kingfisher book so far. I think this is my 4th one. I've seen this described as wholesome horror, and I understand why. This is very humorous, it's very light-hearted, which feels a little bit at odds with some of the imagery in here at times. It almost reads like not kind of a rom-com in some ways because there's a bit of a romance element to it. But you have this incredibly snarky main character, who I think is called Sam. She is called Sam. I remembered. Oh no, no. Has the migraine passed now? That's the important thing because I know you proper get floored when you get them. So you have Sam, who's I think they're an entomologist, and they study insects, and they've been working at a certain university which has been collecting all these rare specimens, and then a fire has happened, and so she's kind of out of work and kind of not for a little bit. As she moves in with her mum for a short period of time, who's moved into what used to be her mum's house. And, the grandmother was a bit of an old-fashioned character, shall we say. Bit of a nasty piece of work. And move into this spooky house, and things aren't quite right. The decor's been changed back to how it was when the grandmother was alive. Mother seems a little bit on edge all the time. There's weird noises. It's just something's not quite right. And the garden's immaculate with massive murder bushes. I mean roses. We're going to Oslo, Norcon on Friday, then home on Monday. Oh, busy, 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 busy week then. I'm glad you woke up fine as well, other than sluggish. Busy, busy 10 days for you. But you have this situation where Sam's trying to find out what's going on with the mum, whether it's just a psychiatric break. And because she's a scientist, she's trying to explain everything away. There's a woman who lives up the road that the grandmother used to hate, who is actually a witch of some description, or witch is probably the wrong word, actually. We'll lean towards wise woman more than witch, because it's not totally clear. It's not witchcraft as it's often shown. Certainly pagan, in terms of some of the things that seems to be being shown. But it's only lightly touched on, so it's nothing major. Okie dokie, Jenny. And things just continue to get weirder. She starts having weird lucid dreams. She pricks her thumb on a thorn, and she's noticing in the garden there's no insects, and she just makes a comment that, oh, there should be ladybirds everywhere. And then suddenly there's an infestation of ladybirds in the house, and it's like, this is weird. And then eventually it becomes clear that there is a supernatural element going on here. The grandmother has not passed on as expected. The garden is responsible for a lot of this stuff, and it takes this sudden sort of nosedive, and it does sort of gradually go downhill. But it hits this sudden point where it just falls off its cliff into proper horror, in terms of like a really dark, visceral, gruesome approach to things, where the wisecracking just stops, which is a bit of a weird tonal shift. Overall, I like the twist. You weren't joking when you said he'd be right back. So quick. Yeah, so it was. I like how everything knitted together. It does knit together very well. I can't quite place what the supernatural effects are. Fair enough. Is it books? What the supernatural effects are pulled from in terms of mythology, I can't quite place it. And there is actually a twist with the grandma as well, which I thought was really, really clever and subverted the expectations. I like the fact you've got this idea of the housing association with the paranoid neighbour that's always watching people, which is how I view American housing associations. We don't have that sort of stuff here, so it's fine. Another one that'd be a oh, I thought it'd be Loki, or Deadpool. This is a good starter horror though. I will say that, because it's not overly heavy. It does have heavy moments. It's quite funny. Did make me crack a smile a few times. I just like my horror a little bit darker. So there we go. Which, speaking of darker, so Rebecca Crunden is someone that I follow on Twitter or X or whatever it's called now. I think they call themselves Indie Book Spotlight on there. They've got loads of books, and I think this was like 99 pages. It's only 26 pages long. It's super short. And basically, there's a guy who lives out in the middle of nowhere, and they find this kid nearby. Yeah, he also has a shotgun and locks all the doors, including his family, out, so they can't get in until they knock and give a secret password and asks everybody if they're from the government. It's very much an exaggeration, and I love it. It's just not in my horror books, not in this, because it's not a. It works for me with a slasher, actually, bizarrely. Slasher horror works better with that sort of humor for me. So you got this guy who's a fairly kind-natured person who finds this kid in his barn on a really stormy night, takes him in, feeds him, tries to find out a bit about him, finds out where he's come from. It turns out that something bad has apparently. No, well, that's a good point. Water for me. I've had coffee. I can't have anything else. And takes him home. And it turns out that there is a curse on the home that this kid comes from. Super short. 26 pages. This packs a lot into 26 pages. This wastes no time at establishing the general feel of the characters and the fact that something's slightly off and you don't know what it is. I like what they did with it. I like the twist. I like where the characters go. It's another book that I wish was longer. I would have liked this to have been 150 pages. I think this could have been stretched to 150 pages and still been amazing. That's why it's lost marks, because it was so short. But they've done so many books. Like, so many. Not all of them are short. One of them's like 700 pages. I can't remember what it's called, though. Worth a pick up if you're after like a half an hour, 45-minute read. This thing. Okay. Things we say in the dark. Oh. So this is a short story collection split into 3 sections, being section 1 being the house, section 2 being the child. Can't remember what section 3 is called, and I think it's 7 stories, 6 stories. Short story collection, you have a bit of a mixed bag. This is... I saw somebody, I think it was Jack Edwards, actually, of all people, in their Goodreads review of this, refer to this as all vibes, no story. And I kind of understand that. The writing is beautiful. There's some incredibly creepy imagery in here. Some very dark imagery as well, as it looks like the house section is very much looking at how we build a shell around ourselves and how our house represents us. But the first house is made out of teeth and human hair. That is where this goes. And I think it was Noah's reading sprint at the time, and I was sort of giving like updates on what the story was doing, and he's just stood there going, I don't get it. There's a house made of mushrooms, a house made of icebergs. You've got various different children's stories. Some of them are decent. There are a couple of real highlights in here, but I just felt so lost. Like with nearly every story, I think each story is a metaphor for something, be it having children, losing children, finding a home, not having a home, the home we make for ourselves, the home we have enforced on us, whether we should get married or stay single, and da 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 da. But it was too metaphorical for my brain to process. I just couldn't grasp it. It was too... Oh, it's there. It was too vague for me to get. This is also the worst of the covers as well. The cover that I've got on mine is much nicer. I then hit my first James Herbert. I was looking for... This was the shortest of the James Herberts. I believe it is one of the not-so-good ones. This would have worked better as just a thriller. It didn't need the supernatural element. So I also realised afterwards I actually own this on my Kindle. I think it's the ex-wife's, because I know she's a massive James Herbert fan. It's decently narrated. The narrator I have heard before, and it took me ages to figure out they're one of the co-narrators for Atlas 6. They did a really good job. And it's basically, you've got Detective Jim Kelso, Damian Lynch, that's his name, who everybody liked, but nobody wants to work with him because he's a bit cursed. Everything he does, at a certain point, it just goes horribly wrong. And he's got this reputation for basically being a Jonah, and just cursing anything he's in. So he's sent away to this little seaside village, harbour village, to investigate for the drug squad because something has happened there. I think a couple of people have overdosed on LSD just out of nowhere and trying to figure out why. They meet up with a member of the military police as well who joins in because there's been an incident at the base, and the assumption is that drugs are being trafficked in through the area. Yeah, this is my first Herbert, and my issue with this is I like it's too long because it's quite slow in places, but the supernatural element doesn't add anything. This works perfectly fine as a police investigation. You can explain away some of the supernatural things with the drugs that are being used in here. I liked the relationship between the characters. I like the small English town feel that this generates, the very suspicious of outsiders sort of thing. It just felt a little bit underbaked or overextended. I gave it 3.25. The narration was good, if a little bit insipid at times. I will read more. I think I've got Ash at least, and I think there's a few more on my Kindle which I will get to eventually. But yeah, one of the weaker books of the month. So it took me. It also felt like I was listening to it forever. Which, actually, speaking about, same with the Creeper as well. That book felt a lot longer than its 9 hours runtime, and in that case, that was a compliment. It's not here. This one's a weird one. So my reading of chapter 1 goes up tomorrow for this. This has been on my list for ages, and I was so lost. You have a character whose name you don't find out until the 93% point of the book. You don't find out their gender till about halfway through. They're going to investigate the death of another doctor at this chateau in the hills. Yeah, it's this. I like this because everything links together really, really well. But I wish I'd made notes actually on this one. I'm probably going to reread it by the end of the year just to see what I can glean a second time through. The idea is that this physician is going to perform an autopsy on another doctor that has died in mysterious circumstances at a baron's chateau. And we don't know much about the world. We're drip-fed stuff. So it keeps us very much in suspense. A part of that is because of the character's point of view. Because the more we know about the world, the more we know about the character. So any bit of world building links into the character, or any bit of character work works into the world building. It all interlinks and sort of spreads out organically like a fungus, which is ironic considering what this is dealing with. You have the doctor going to perform an autopsy on this other doctor, who is himself. And this is where it starts to confuse me. So you have some sort of hive mind thing going on. You have sentient parasites. You have some sort of what appears to be some sort of possibly fungal infection, but possibly not. You have repressed memories and not amnesia per se, because the main character clearly has a lot of memory, but part of them is locked away and starts to come out over time. You have abuse. You have because you don't know about the world as well. It's not clear. This is obviously some sort of post-apocalypse world, but you don't get any clear answers. What caused it? Whether it could have been climate change, it could have been nuclear war. There's comments of the sky falling in, which is that asteroids? Is it satellites? Is it aliens? And every time it gives you an answer to something, that answer leads to even more questions, and it's bonkers. I've never read anything like it. The closest I came was Chrysalis Requiem, which was terrible. This was not, because this, even though it hid the world from you to keep you off balance, it never felt like you needed that information to understand the basics of what was going on. So this ended up, it's more of a mystery than anything else. Now there's some cracking body horror in here. There's just a lot. Check the content warnings for this one. But I want to talk with people about this, because I thought this was about vampires. It definitely is not. So I gave it 4.25. I suspect that's going to go up on a reread. And in fact, I'm going to listen to the audiobook, because I believe the audiobook is narrated by Abigail Thorne, who is massive YouTuber from PhilosophyTube, UK, transgender, which again fits some of the things to do with the character in here. Recently been in The Acolyte, I believe, as well as a number of other things. So there we go. But finally, I've been putting this one off. I want your opinion, Marissa, on this cover. This beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing. Spirit Bears Its Teeth by Andrew Joseph White. A talking filter. You only read 4 books. You're a lot busier than me. I'm probably only going to read 4 in... Anyway, it's quality, not quantity. So, and you've been Baldur's Gating a lot more. Which, that game is a time sink. I've got like 200 hours in it. So, A Spirit Bears Its Teeth by Andrew Joseph White. Yeah, so this is another Peachtree. So, as already mentioned, Peachtree Teen does amazing, amazing covers. This is the same author as Hell Followed With Us, which I followed last year. And... So you don't see it on the picture, but there's actual where all the gold is. Well, not all the gold. Some of the gold is actually foil, and then she's holding like a sliver of glass, which is also reflective as well, and it all makes sense. So this is historical right. It's YA, and much like Hell Followed With Us, I don't quite know how this falls under YA. It's a beautiful cover. It really is. Peachtree knock it out the park with their covers. Where's So how many have I got? 2, 3. So I have 5 Peachtree books. So let me just switch view for a second. That one. Switch view. There we go. So this is the normalist one, right? So Juniper's Folly, which is the YA horror book. Well, mystery book, really. So that's a nice cover in itself. So Peachtree do a full online catalogue of their books by year. Hell Followed With Us, which I know Ellen read that last year. I love this book. No, I don't. I hate this book, actually. This book made me angry in a way no other book ever has managed to do. And when I think about it now, it makes me so angry the way the main character is treated within the first 10 pages. This properly got me going. Longest review I've done on the channel. You have Death's Country, which is a Orpheus and Eurydice retelling, but in a spoken word format, set in modern day USA. Has polyamorous relationship as well. I should also actually add, right? So, transgender main character with an autistic gay second. A leads are 2 of the leads are gay in there. The other one I think is bisexual. You have Absinthe Underground, which I reviewed earlier this year. Another very pretty cover. It's a sapphic fae romance thing. And already mentioned that one. That's got polyamory. And then you have this. So, Spirit Bares Its Teeth. This follows a main character called Silas, set in the late 19th century in England. And what's been occurring in this world is people have begun to develop purple eyes, which allows them to see the spirit world. And you have a whole society of speakers, and this is the foil really adds to it. The special editions for these coming out this year as well, which I want to see them and I want them. I don't know if I can afford them, but there we go. But what you have is you have the kind of arranged sort of marriage thing going on. Women are not allowed to do certain things, as was quite normal in Victorian times. And this looks at the role of... This is very anti-men in many ways, the way it's written. The idea of the patriarchy using medicine and experimentation and arranged marriage to sort of control minorities, women specifically. That's the wrong one. Is it? No, it was the right one. And what you have is you have a main character who identifies as male, born female. And their older brother has taught them a number of things to do with being a doctor and operations, so on and so forth. And they decide to disguise themselves and try and get their seal so they can go and be like a spirit watcher medium in real life as a man. Things go horribly wrong and they get sent to a asylum and finishing school for young women. Specifically young women who are suffering from veil sickness. Which is a condition because of the frailty of the woman's mind, and they cannot comprehend or deal with the rigours of spirit work. So what you have here is a book that is basically God, what's the word? Thingy therapy. Oh, the brain's gone. Conversion therapy, basically, to try and turn them into the perfect young women for men to marry. Often men who are a lot older than them. Some of these girls are only 14 in this, maybe even younger. And you have the idea of they're using medical science to enforce their idea of a woman's gender role. Now, the main character, as already mentioned, is transgender and autistic as well. And it shows that the author's autistic with a number of the different things in here, with some of the coping mechanisms and behaviors and quirks and failure to recognize certain social prompts in particular, that comes through really, really well. And what I find interesting about this book, I don't like this as much as Hell Followed With Us. This is a better book. This is a better novel. I don't like it as much. And I think part of that is because we're looking at it through the eyes of the autistic character, because what you have is this weird situation where normal everyday situations, especially social situations, are amplified, right, in terms of the difficulty for Silas to deal with. But when it gets to the high stress moments, they fall into this coping mechanism that they've used for super high stress moments, like things around operating and medical work and stuff like that. And so the high stress moments don't feel as stressful as they have in other books because of the way the character operates, which I find really, really interesting. But the lower stress, normally lower stress areas, are heightened. So it keeps everything a lot more level all the way through it, and it doesn't quite cause the rage inducement that Hell Followed With Us did. Now, that being said, this is horrific. I know, so the main protagonist is around 16. In fact, they are 16. They're not around 16. They are 16. This might be a UK thing. So UK does not split YA up particularly well in most of the shops. Generally, you'll have 5 to 8, 7 to 12, young adult. This does not work for a 13-year-old. I would feel very uncomfortable with a 13-year-old reading this. 16-year-old, probably fine, although, again, read the content warnings on this. It's not historically accurate, something that the author does acknowledge. It's inspired by attitudes at the time and towards different groups. It's incredibly dark. It's incredibly gruesome, once again. The characters are well-rounded and lovable. There is an interesting twist with family as well. But the level of abuse the characters go through in this, and just to do the content warnings really quick, you have suggestion of sexual abuse and some sexual abuse on page. You have yeah, that's the thing, because it used to split. It used to go up to 12, and then it'd have teen, then it'd have YA. And it doesn't anymore. And I think you see some titles in the YA section, it's like, no, absolutely not. Because some of them are proper spicy, spicy titles that you don't want someone reading at the age of 13. No, they're not my kids. They're kids outside. They're feral. All the kids around here are feral. They just live outside all day. They just go into sleep and then go out and kick balls into cars. This is UK life. Until you walk past, they're incredibly polite when you walk past them. So you have abuse, you have gaslighting, you have bullying, you have dead naming, you have sexism, you have self-harm, you have torture, you have actual bodily harm, you have an unanesthetized C-section in a bathtub. It's so dark, and I mean, I love it. I put off reading this because of the number that Hell Followed With Us did on me, but they have another book out in September called Compound Fracture, which, if I remember correctly, might not be a YA title. I think that's a full-on adult horror. So God only knows where that's going to go. But the flow of this is really smart, and it really does drive home the level of abuse that the characters are feeling and going through, and also the effect that has on the different people around it. You have like the nervous and the shy, and the ones that are the tattletales, and it looks at the societal ideas of the time, and like the fashions, and the proper way to run a household on parts of the man, and how they used to buy dowries for the daughters and stuff like that. Very, very dark. Again, doesn't get me quite as rage-inducing. It probably should do, but it doesn't. But I do highly recommend that. And it's another gorgeous cover as well, which always helps. Which is the main reason I bought it. In fact, it's the entire reason I bought Hell Followed With Us. So there we go. That is 15 books last month. So let's go back to that. No, not that one. So where am I for the year? So I'm on 95 for the year now, which, considering my target was a lot less than that. Where? So yeah, we had a bit of a mix. Not a bad month. I need to press buttons, don't I? Do I? No, it's done it. Yeah, 15. A very flat month overall. A lot of stuff in the slightly better than average. But for a long time, it looked like it was all going to be like that, with the exception of Bury Your Gaze, which is amazing and everyone should read. Yeah, I've my plan for the year was 52. It's gone a bit wrong. What it is, I've stopped playing video games and I don't really watch stuff, so I just read. That's what it is. I go to work and I read. I don't do anything else. Although I did go to the pictures yesterday and watch Deadpool. The UK is full of, all children in the UK are feral, especially now because it's school holidays. They're all unattended. They just roam the streets in gangs. I'm saying this sarcastically. They all know who I am because they're all scared of me. Wonderful children, a lot of them. I will be surrounded by feral children on Friday because my kids will be coming, and I have one of my fellow children downstairs, but he's 20 now, so doesn't really count as child anymore. So yeah, so we have the 2.5, which was Psychic Teenage Bloodbath 2. Things We Say in the Dark. Jonah by James Herbert. Can't remember. Leech. No, that one was Leech. What were you then? Oh, you were someone else's horror, the short story. Spirit Bares Its Teeth and Bury Your Gaze. Yeah. Now, to be fair, the thing... it's very different to the US, but... I was a good boy growing up. Honest. I was a good boy growing up. I was sweet. To be fair, everybody, because I still work locally from where I grew up. Switch back to that. Because I still sort of live and work where I've always lived and worked. I still see all the people that remember me as a kid. I was talking to the midwife that delivered me the other day. They delivered 3 of my children. I've had 3 children. They delivered all of my children. It's where I live is a strange place, but I don't think UK kids are that feral, to be honest, because school teaches us to conform and follow the rules. So we just find safe ways to break them. So, a good reading month, a solid reading month. Well, so I live literally, if I go to the back of my house, I'm looking out over school fields. So where I live literally is between the school and the school fields. I'm on like a cul-de-sac. So I hear kids all the time, and because I work retail, I have to deal with them in the morning. The school knows me very well. Number one, because one of my kids went there. And number two is every September when the school starts again, I have to go in and have a quiet word about their kids and the fact that I will ban every single one of them from the shop. I might be reading Lord of the Flies, actually. This month, maybe. Just on a side point. Yeah, so some holidays, the kids are great. They just, if the weather's nice, they just go and sit on the park and, I don't know, drink. They just go to bus stops and drink White Lightning or whatever the current cider is. In fact, they don't even do that now. They're all on PlayStations and Xboxes, let's be honest. Tapping away on the phones, talking to the person next to them. Which I was doing earlier today, but there we go. Yeah. Well, what's everyone's reading plans for the next month? What have people got coming up? I need inspiration for... Not for September, that's Twilight month. Well, it's not going to be a full month. I couldn't do that. But what have people got coming up when they've finished their current stuff? I know I'm a little bit jealous of Ellen going to the Hugo Awards. I'm not going to lie. Also, Marissa, what is it you're hitting next then? Marissa made me buy chlorine as well. It's all her fault. On a side point, no reading plans. Just seeing where it goes, or if you have time. Oh, okay. So I have that. I read that last year. I don't know if Noah gave it me back. I gave it to Noah and it just sat on his shelf. I'm sure I've got it somewhere. Ah, there we go. I apologise for the whiteness of my legs. That one. By any chance? It's how you odd. I wasn't sure how I felt about it after I read it. It's fascinating. It's not for me. Yeah, I can understand why people do like it. I really do. It's a bit too close in some ways to... I know it's not poetry, but it reminds me. It reminds me of poetry quite a lot. And I love the idea. I love the way that it actually works. It was... This is going to sound... It was too literary for me. Yeah. That's where... And again, this is an issue... Similar issue to what I have with classics. Certain types of writing do not work for me. It's why I had issues with Black Flamingo. But that is written as a spoken word performance, so realistically should have listened to that one rather than read it. Because I listened to Deaf Country because I hadn't realised that was a spoken word performance, and it made sense. Speaking of, I've been sent a spoken word performance to do on the channel at some point. Well, you do see a clear difference in the prose because obviously you've got the two authors writing two different characters. I liked it quite a bit. The love story is great, and I like the sort of the timey-wiminess of it, to use the Doctor Who term. It's so far out of my normal comfort range. I think that's what it is. It's very different to what I normally read. I saw it because it blew up on social media because Bigolus Dickolus, actual screen name, tweeted about it, saying that everyone should read this book without spoilers now, and it just went boom last year, and that's how it ended up on my radar, ironically enough. So it is well done. It is beautifully written. It's too literary for my taste. Let's put it that way. I do like a more utilitarian writing style. I have said this before. But that's just me. So, what are you moving on to next, Witchy? Also, when When does the battle start with you? When do we see that? You're round 3, aren't you? I'm very excited. Very excited. Also, has anyone watched any good films soon? Deadpool was fine. I'm probably going to watch Borderlands because I want to be depressed next week. And I'm probably going to check out, because the new Alien film's out in about 2 weeks as well. So I'm probably going to go see that. I'm actually going to see things for once. So, yeah. But other than reading, what's everyone doing for August? I am working because we lost our manager with 1 day's notice. Longlegs. I have. Is that the one with Nicolas Cage in it? Okay. What have you done? Let me just. Oh, I have had a. Ah! No, don't do that. Jesus. What's this? Oh. Oh, thank you. Oh, I love you. Oh, bless. Um. Right, hang on. Let me click things. Oh, bless you. So Purple Prose is where the focus is entirely on the writing to the extent of nothing else really matters. It's quite self-indulgent. Overwritten is the way I'd like to use it. Think of as many words as you can use to describe a black table and put them all in a row, and that is Purple Prose. Twisters. Is that an actual remake of the one from like the 90s? So I also believe they've made a point of taking out of that entire film any commentary on climate change, which is stupid. Just on the side point. Oh, very nice. I've not been to Leeds in ages. Absolutely ages. I've got more time off coming. I might need to wander over to the White Rose County at some point. Did I just see Akatar? Oh, witchy. Oh, witchy. I really want to know what you think of Akatar. I really do. Fair enough. I know Beetlejuice is coming out. Beetlejuice 2. Looking forward to that. I went to see Twister at the cinema with my dad. We don't get tornadoes, we get rain. Or scorching sunshine. We don't really get... We do... What we class as a tornado is like, it just blow a paper bag over, to be honest. But, yeah, no, I saw that was on at the cinema. There's a few things coming out. There's a few things. I think last time I was at Leeds was for football, which Leeds fans are a different breed. Oh, what's the graphic novel? And how's the how have you found the biography so far? I need to read more biographies. I'm looking forward to listening to Harold the Ninth. Actually, I might start that tomorrow with the book to the Lock Tomb, because that is really book one. The audio was exceptional because it's a proper voice actor doing it rather than a narrator, which sounds a bit dismissive. But they did all the voices, and they were all unique and all with their own unique actors, and it was just spectacular. Can't wait to get to that one. Oh, but so many things. I'm working a lot. We've lost our manager in work. They told us on Sunday it was their last day, which is great. So that's fun. So I don't have a manager for the next until September, and we've already done the rotas, and we have 2 new starters, which I have to train, which means we have no one to cover the training hours. So it's going to be a long August until I'm off at the end of it. So, huzzah. Alright, okay. I do need to read biographies more. I struggle so much with life stories. I've got what have I got that I need to read? Miriam Margolyes. I think I've just pronounced it correctly. I've got her autobiography which I want to read, which I picked up because she's a fascinating lady in so many ways. Very anti-Tory as well, which always helps. And I've got Pratchett. I've still not read Terry Pratchett's biography that was written by his ghostwriter when he was at sort of the far end of his Alzheimer's. So I need to read that as well, but God knows when I'm getting to that one. But yeah, I think that is everything. So I'll be doing a live with Noah at some point. God knows when that's going to be, but we are going to do it. I've been seeing a Muppets one. Who did I see it on? It had a picture of the green trash monster, whose name I can't remember. Yeah, that's actually on my eventually to buy list. All right, okay. I picked up a graphic. Did I put it in my video? I probably put it in my video. I don't know what I've done with it. I realised how many books. Also, Noah hasn't commented yet. So when I said in the video, my haul video, I'm not buying any more books, 20 minutes later, more books were purchased. So I'd just like you to all know it's not my fault. But I went into a bookshop yesterday and I didn't buy anything. I was a good boy. So there we go. Yeah, but I think that's it. I hope you've enjoyed listening to me ramble for an hour and 3/4. I hope you all have a great rest of the week. What day are we on? Wednesday. We're in August. How is it August? Like, that's 7 months gone. Why? Where? It's just been wet. But yeah, I hope you have a great rest of the week. With whatever you're choosing to do. It's still July. It is for another 3.25 hours for you. I'm looking forward to all the indie books. All the indie books. I'm so excited. I like the indie books. So many. It also means I get to poke authors a little bit more. I don't mind poking the smaller authors to give me attention. I'm very excited to carry on with Odyssey Earth, actually. Looking forward to that. That'll probably be the first physical read. But yeah, I hope you had a good time. I hope you have a good rest of your day, night, morning, whatever time it is where you are. I appreciate you spending this time with me. I am probably going to bed because I'm tired and I'm old. But yeah, thanks for hanging out with me. I forgot what I was going to say. Have a good rest of your evening, everybody. And I will catch you all very, very soon. Good night, y'all.